How's it going, YouTube? My name is Matt Phelps with Phelps Fit. You've got some questions about fitness and diet. I've hopefully got some answers for you. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Zeke and Utah over here. We're here to help you reach your goals, and let's get right to it, all right? You guys were great. You posted a lot of questions on our Facebook fan page, and let's get started. Okay, so the first question I see here, question number one comes from Tracy. Tracy says, I drink over a gallon of water a day. I work out 4 times a week and I still cannot lose weight. I take a lot of meds which cause weight gain, but I feel like I'm starving myself at nothing. Not a pound dropped. Well, Tracy, what I would say is to start by taking a food log and really keeping a tight eye on what your daily caloric intake is. You know, without a general idea of what that is, it'd be hard to know what to change. Unfortunately, with a lot of those medications, it just means that you're going to have a slower metabolic rate, but that just means we have to take in less calories. Now, in terms of you feeling hungry all the time, that shouldn't necessarily be the case. You know, you should be getting in lots of fiber, lots of green vegetables, lots of lean protein, which should definitely keep you full. So what I would like you to do is keep track of your diet for a week and see how you're eating, see what kind of habits you can form, and we'll take a look at what you're doing with that stuff. But I would say start by having lots of lean protein and green vegetables, lots of fruits, lots of water, and that should help with that hunger issue. But unfortunately for you, we're just going to have to get your caloric intake down there a little bit. Madison wants to know, Matt, how about excess protein? Does over-supplementing your protein intake limit your potential gains? Those macro calories have to go somewhere. Madison, that's a great question, and this is true. They do have to go somewhere. However, protein is the most costly macronutrient to process in your body. You know, in other words, in order to metabolize and break down protein, your body burns a fair amount of calories in doing so, making it a little bit different than carbohydrates and fat. I also I find that with myself and with a lot of my clients, yes, protein has 4 calories per gram, as do carbohydrates, but for me, you know, if I have a lot of 50 grams of protein, I feel very different than if I had 50 grams of carbohydrates. You know, I think they're a lot more filling, and I think they give you a little more bang for your buck in that sense. So of course we never want to do anything to excess. This fitness community, a lot of people are all or nothing or very extreme, and I think we need to find that, settle in that gray area and find that middle ground when it comes to protein. For you, Madison, a male who likes to lift weights, anywhere between 1 gram to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight is a good place to start. Lean body weight, I should say. Zach, great question right here from Zach. I usually lift early in the mornings as soon as I get up. Often I'm pretty hungry and need something to fuel my workout. What do you recommend prior to lifting? Also, what do you recommend right after working out to maximize gains? I've heard conflicting opinions about protein shakes and would like to know your view. Zach, I've got some real bad news for you, man. If you don't get protein within 20 minutes of working out, you're just wasting your time. No, I'm only kidding, man. That's actually not true at all. It's one of the biggest myths out there. You know, Zach, I would just do what you feel the best doing. You know, some people like to eat a piece of fruit before they work out first thing in the morning and they feel great. Others, like myself, like to take a pre-workout drink, you know, and get that in their system before they work out first thing in the morning. I like a good pre-workout because I find that it does have somewhat of a filling effect if you consume it with enough water, and it also, you know, doesn't fill you with food, so you feel like you're going to get sick during your workout. So and I know other people that like working out fasted, so that's really up to you, and that's a personal preference thing. In terms of maximizing gains with right after when you work out, Zach, it's really much more about the total picture of what your day of eating looks like and the macronutrient breakdown of that day than it is the timing of those meals. I mean, you know, people like to focus on the minutia. That's the minutia when they're missing the big picture. And the big picture is how many grams of protein, carbohydrates, or fat are you eating each day. And if you don't know, like I said to Tracy, why don't you start tracking that and getting a good sense on that. And like I said to Madison, as a younger guy who likes to lift, 1 gram to 1.5 grams of protein is a great place to start per pound of lean body weight. Ed's next up. Ed's question, with all the crazy schedules we have because of work, family, and other serious obligations, how do you suggest we maintain a routine when it comes to eating? Well, Ed, in your question, I think you hit the nail on the head. There needs to be some semblance of a routine. You know, if you're one of those kind of people that flies by the seat of your pants, and every day is very different. Some people can get away with that and are very good at tracking their macros that way. Other people like myself, I do much better when I'm in some sort of a daily routine. I tend to eat the same breakfast, the same lunch. We do mix our dinners up somewhat between chicken and then chicken sausage. No, I'm just kidding. Mostly just chicken. But pretty much just settling into a routine with a macro breakdown that works best for you and your goals is my recommendation in that scenario. You know, try and have 2 or 3 options for breakfast, 2 or 3 options for lunch, 2 or 3 options for dinner, and tend to snack on the same items during the day. And that way you'll know what to change when you want to change something. So great question, but I would say you answered it yourself. You know, just settle into some kind of a routine with that. Next up, Jen. This is kind of a big, it's a short question with a big answer, big long answer. Jen wants to know, how do you count macros? Jen, I just want to educate our community. For those who don't know, macros stand for macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fat. You know, we like to track our macros because it gives us a better idea as to what we're intaking and what the caloric value of those foods really are. You know, there's 4 calories per gram of protein, 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates, 9 calories per gram of fat. Zeke, we're trying to film a video here. So I would just kind of, you know, count. Those are what macros are. To count your macros, we use an app like MyFitnessPal, which is available on almost all smartphones. And you can track by logging your food during the day and seeing how much of those foods you're actually eating. In terms of knowing how, that's a much longer answer to figure out, you know, what your macros should be. But, you know, that's where getting a coach is great to assign you macronutrients and hold you accountable for your goals. So, you know, I would just get on an app like MyFitnessPal, play around with it a little bit and see where you're at. You know, it's a great, even if you don't macro for the rest of your life, it's great to do it at least once in your life just to see. It's very educational in terms of how much you're eating and exactly what's in every type of food. Claudia, next up. Claudia wants to know, is the 8-hour window of eating, or within the 8-hour window of eating, what are the pros, cons, and conflicting opinions regarding eating right after workout? All right, Claudia, so I kind of covered this earlier with Zach's question in terms of, you know, pros and cons. If you feel like eating right after you work out, eat after you work out. If you don't feel like it, wait a couple hours until you do. Just listen to your body. You're not gonna shrivel up, and your workout will not have gone for naught. All right. 8-hour window of eating. You know, I like it because it can definitely work for some people in terms of controlling their hunger, especially when calories get a little bit lower. If you're someone who doesn't like breakfast, I would say go ahead and try the 8-hour window of eating. What I don't really like is when people sit around looking at a clock waiting for it to tell them when to eat, because that's no way to live your life, all right? This is all about a lifestyle. You gotta live life. You gotta just, you know, don't be too stringent about some of these things. There's nothing magical about that 8-hour. Pretty much the way it works better for most people is you're getting more calories in 2 larger meals, maybe 3, than in 5 or 6 meals throughout the day. Some people prefer that method. Other people like eating more at once. That's really up to you, Claudia. In my experience, there are some clients who do better eating in an 8-hour window because they can save more calories for those meals, and their adherence is better. And like I was alluding to earlier with Zach and with Tracy, it's all about that daily macronutrient breakdown. That's 90% of this stuff, okay? Good question. All right, Kathleen wants to know, as I get older, I'm 46 years old, I feel like I'm more prone to injuries and my injuries take longer to heal. Do you think long term it's better to do more low impact cardio to protect joints, etc., and increase the weight training? I'm sure it's a case by case basis, but I feel like if my heart isn't pounding from high impact, I'm not getting a good workout. You know, this is a great point, Kathleen, and something I would address, especially with our older population, is you probably are going to want to stay away from high impact cardio exercises like burpees and squat jumps and other plyometric type movements that, while they get your heart rate up there a ton, can be a little rougher on the joints. Something you can do is just move a little faster within your weight training workouts. I think some of the best cardio workouts I've ever had in my life have been just in the weight room, not resting between sets and, you know, trying to be real intense within the context of a set. Do a drop set, do a rest pause. In terms of the cardio, yeah, just go for a walk. A long walk is a great form of cardio at a brisk pace that'll get your heart rate up and burn some calories and definitely be easy on the joints. So I would say for the crowd that's in their 40s, if you feel like you're getting more prone to injuries, if you can handle higher impact cardio, that's awesome. And if you feel like it beats you up a little bit, stick to the weights and do some walking. Ariane wants to know, what are the best exercises to do at home and get the most out of it when you can't make it to the gym? Ariane, the great thing about this stuff is there's a ton of stuff you can do, from push-ups, planks, mountain climbers, burpees, thrusters. All of those things are great options for you. Basically what I would do is create some type of circuit and try and get as many rounds of that circuit for a certain number of reps. Take 5 or 6 exercises, assign like a rep number like 10, and try and do as many rounds as you can in a given context of time, like 15 minutes. I'm sure you're a busy mom, and time is critical. So make the workout short but intense. Another good one is to take a deck of cards, assign an exercise for each suit, flip a card over, and do the number it says for that exercise. That's another awesome workout. That'll definitely get your heart rate up there. Mary Jo wants to know, as you get older, 40 plus, should you increase your intake of protein? If so, by how much? Mary Jo, protein recommendations are highly individualized. I personally think we should always take in a significant amount of protein, hopefully before you reach the age of 40. But even after the age of 40, I don't think it's too late to up your protein a little bit. Protein preserves lean muscle tissue on your body. Definitely hold on to more muscle if you up your protein intake. Not only that, but you're going to be full. You're not going to feel like eating stuff that's not the greatest for you in terms of having a lot of calories and not being super filling. So yeah, absolutely, Mary Jo, get your protein up there a little bit. For women, I tend to recommend anywhere between 0.7 and 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's a great place to start, okay? Michelle wants to know, what's the best exercise for a person over 60 to tighten their stomach muscles? Michelle, real quick, stomach muscles, you can't really tighten a muscle. You can lose body fat and you can develop muscle, but you can't really tighten a muscle. What I would recommend to you is do some cardiovascular activity like walking. Keep an eye on your caloric intake, and some of that body fat should go away, and you should feel your abdominals being a little more developed and a little tighter. How do you train when interested in both weightlifting and running? The goal is to lose fat and still build muscle. All right, Rebecca, we're kind of talking about two different things here. Here's the thing, a lot of people, they just go right to cardio when they're trying to lose fat. For me, cardio is a tool to be used in the later phases of fat loss, okay? If you just start doing tons of cardio and you're not really aware of what your macros are, what your macronutrient dietary breakdown is, you're not really, it's really easy to consume a lot of calories. You can run on a treadmill for an hour and burn 400 calories. 2 slices of pizza is 800 calories, so there you go. I mean, it's very easy to overeat on calories. The only way you're gonna lose fat is to be in a caloric deficit. You can do whatever type of diet you want. There's tons of different systems out there, but that fact is unchanged and remains true. So, to answer your question, I would do the bare minimum of cardio that I needed to support my strength training workouts and eat in a slight caloric deficit where I'm losing a half a pound to a pound each week. That's going to ensure that you're holding as much lean muscle tissue as you can, which is going to keep your metabolic rate up there, which is obviously the goal in strength training. So, when you're looking to lose fat, don't jump right to the cardio. It's much, much more about the macros, okay? Jeff wants to know, eggs or egg whites? Jeff, why not both? Every morning I have an egg and a cup of egg whites. Sometimes I'll have 2 eggs. Sometimes I'll cook myself 4 scrambled eggs. Again, it's just all about how it fits into your macronutrient breakdown for that day. I like peanut butter too. Some days I'll have more egg whites if I know I'm going to be having peanut butter later in the day. If I have a breakfast with a lot of fat in it, a lot of whole eggs, I'll take it easy on the peanut butter later in the day. It's just all about how you want it to fit, Jeff. Simple enough. All right, Michelle wants to know, what are your thoughts about the amount of weight to use when working out and getting less reps versus getting more reps with lighter weights if your goal is to lose weight and get toned? Michelle, I'm so glad you asked this question. So many So many of you women out there are so misinformed about how to properly strength train and what intensity level you need to be working at. My theory with women, and I believe I've seen this play out, is if you lift maximally in terms of if you don't work as hard as you can work for a given rep range or a given time under tension, say you're doing, you know, a set of dumbbell ball bench press for a minute of time under tension or 20 reps, if you don't use a weight that's going to challenge you, you know, you're not going to burn as many calories in that workout, you're not going to build as much lean muscle tissue, you're not going to be as metabolically active, and you're not going to burn as many calories when the workout's over. Conversely, if you choose a weight that really challenges you, you're going to build up your heart rate, you're going to get a sweat going, you're going to burn calories in that moment, and you're going to develop a little bit, not a lot, a little bit of lean muscle tissue that's going to be churning up calories all through the day. So, ladies, lift hard, get after it. There's no such thing as toning with light weights. You can't do it. Next question. Michelle wants to also know, is coffee and popcorn really that bad for you? Michelle, absolutely not. You know, everything in moderation is my philosophy with all this stuff. You can have coffee, you can have popcorn, you know, don't drink a pot of coffee and don't have a bag of buttered popcorn, but some low-fat popcorn and 1 cup of coffee a day, that's not going to kill you. If I'm not really a big meat eater, what can I have to supplement protein? I already have eggs and fish. Basically, that's all I like. All right, Michelle, I'm going to shoot you straight here. It's not so much about what you like, it's about reaching your goals when it comes to dietary stuff, okay? Also, there's a ton of macro-friendly recipes that involve protein powder, from muffins to cookies to pancakes to waffles. Tons of stuff out there that you can make. Egg whites, you know, working in some nuts, watching the amount of those you have to watch the fats as well. You know, tons of different sources out there besides just meat, all right? Especially as a female, you know, you don't need a ton of protein to fill your requirements. So you should be able to get by with the eggs, the egg whites, and the fish, and then just working in some Greek yogurt or some whey protein as well. Is having a banana or yogurt better in the AM? That depends on if you prefer to have a banana in the morning or Greek yogurt. I'm not trying to be, you know, sarcastic, but it's really about what you prefer, Michelle, and what your carb allotment is for that day. You know, some people like to backload their carbs and have more later in the day. Other people like to have them earlier in the day. It really just depends on what you have room for in your macronutrient profile and where you feel best. Some people like having a little bit of carbohydrate before they work out. And so if that's you, I'd say have the banana. If you're going to work for the day and you just want to have something small, go with the Greek yogurt. Go with both, you know, as long as it fits, you're all good. Last question. Amy wants to know, what are your thoughts on balancing weightlifting and circuit training with running for optimal performance with reduced risk of training and with reduced risk of injury and overtraining? What is a good macro split for optimal performance as well? Great question, Amy. The long and short of it is, that's going to vary greatly on a number of factors, age, size, gender. For a woman in her 40s, I would say performing a low volume strength training routine where you're not really doing a ton of sets, kind of wearing into those joints, but getting right down to the sets that matter, and then supplementing that into your running routine is probably your best bet. You know, some circuit training is okay with running. I think that's great as well. If you can handle that, there is a little bit more impact with circuit training. So if you're someone who runs daily, I would say I would opt for more of the strength training with that. But if you're someone who runs on alternate days of your strength training days, throw some circuit training in there for sure. I think the bottom line is, though, we're trying to control the amount of, you know, the amount of impact that you know, these exercises have on your body. In terms of the macro split for optimal performance, you know, that again, that is greatly individual. Some people do better with higher carbs, some people do better with higher fats. If I'm just going to give something generic for an endurance athlete, I would say start with 50% carbs, you know, 20% fats, 30% protein. That's just a general recommendation. You know, for me and a lot of the athletes, you need lean protein for recovery, you need carbohydrates to fuel activity, and you need fats as well for energy. So you need all three. That's just a general recommendation for a breakdown that's going to ensure that you have plenty of all of those. But, you know, most importantly, make sure your caloric intake is enough to support your activity You know, if your goal is performance, that's going to be a little different than body composition. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I do have one more question on here that I missed scrolling through earlier. Jen wants to know, Matt, is it possible to improve your metabolism? Jen, it is possible to improve your metabolism. Absolutely. You know, when I dieted for my show last May, even though I was shredded and I was very lean, my metabolic rate was very, very low because from weeks of eating on a lower calorie diet, okay? Whenever you use macros to lose body fat, you're gonna have to continue dropping those numbers until you reach your desired body fat level. And your metabolic rate at that time, believe it or not, would be very slow, okay? But what you can do is something called reverse dieting, where once you reach your goal, you can actually slowly add calories back in, usually in the form of carbohydrates. You know, I think a good rule of thumb is maybe 20 to 25 carbs a week. So that's about 80 to 100 calories for about 6 to 8 weeks. And, you know, there have been a number of people out there who have improved, who have kept their body weight and also ate 600 more calories a day in doing so by the end of that process. It's called reverse dieting. The body is an amazing organism. It's incredibly adaptive. And that's something that's a pretty cool concept. But most people don't have the patience to diet down and diet back up. And most of us have a fast metabolism because we have a lot of body fat. So, and a good amount of body weight. So that's just the long and short of it. Yes, Jen, you can improve your metabolic rate. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this Q&A. Thanks for joining myself, Zeke, and Utah over here for today's segment. Click the link below to see our Phelps Fit website. If anyone's interested in doing any macro coaching with me, I have my email listed below. I'd be happy to help anybody. I'm currently accepting new members. And stay strong, guys. Until next time.